To our first hot seat of the year. This is one of my favorite classes. It does have an opportunity for us to dive into one individual's challenge that they're faced with and have an opportunity to resolve that within doing it in a 30-minute session. So my name is Tanya Cross, and so I'm a counselor and master certified at the Demartini method. So I don't think I'm a particularly special coach. I just have a lot of dedication, and I really have a big heart in terms of wanting to really help someone to have that heart open goosebump transformation. So I also find human behavior really fascinating. Like it's like a mystery box, and each time I get it unraveled, and I'm like, there's so much more I want to know and so much more I want to learn. But underneath all of that, I love being able to solve the solutions or find solutions for humanity. So today we're going to have an opportunity I'm going to apply the Demartini method and different questions within the Demartini method. So this is a methodology that was created by Dr. Demartini. So if you wanted to find out more, you can check out his website. So today is called the hot seat, and it is an opportunity for you to share what it is, the challenge that you're going through. So we have had people apply to be in the hot seat already, and those two people who are going to share what their story is in under 60 seconds, you're going to then have an opportunity to vote for who you'd like to see in the hot seat. We're then going to do a 30-minute session with them. If you have questions, if you ask that question, Tanya, it is an interactive session. Although don't unmute, you can just write it in the chat section. And then we will help this individual get to an insight, a realization, a heart open on the issue that they're facing. So let's get started with our survey shares. So Steph, do you want to start?
Me, Steph.
Yes. No, you're both Steph. So we'll Steph and Stephanie. We'll go.
Okay. So about 4 years ago, I went on a bit of a bender in terms of everything business building and client generating programs, etc. And I signed up for a high ticket book writing course, which was sort of sold as would result in writing a book in 10 hours over 10 weeks. And all of the benefits that would go with that. So 4 years later, I'm still no closer to finishing the book, let alone, well, I'm no closer to actually starting the book, let alone finishing it. And I want to write the book because just to complete, like for the sake of completion, and also for the return on investment, from the point of view that part of the package was actually a forward by a New York Times bestselling author. So I want to complete, but I just keep procrastinating. Like every excuse under the sun, I will find it. Even if I wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, I'll just lie there thinking about writing, but not actually getting up and writing. Case in point, this morning, it happened again. So I had the time, I was up at 4 a.m., did everything but actually just sitting down and writing something on this bleeding book. So I think part of it is just, I don't want to share my failings. Part of it maybe that I just don't have capacity to take on any more work that's both writing the book and what potentially it might generate, etc. But I'm really just trying to unblock either being able to write this book and just get it done, or be able to let it go without regretting it.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And Stephanie, what would you like to work on?
So I was going to work on just where I am in my life. So I turned 50 a couple of days ago, which isn't a sad thing, but it's a thing. And then I left my marriage about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was amicable. It was very kind. It wasn't like a drama. But we were married like 16 years, and he was like the first person that kind of had my back, like you're ride or die kind of person. And I knew when I left it that I was leaving that. but I was like, I'm strong, I'm good, I can do it. And I have been doing it, but I still cry about it, like, because I was such a stupid move. Because I realize now it's very hard to find people like that. So I struggle a lot with that. And I had a relationship right out, and it had just been like the opposite of my marriage, which is drama versus not drama, like, just because I didn't have my brain thinking about the person, I was just like running into it, and that was my fault. And I don't get to see my son as much because I work a lot. The good news is I do get a lot of work, and that's good, and I save, but I'm always so afraid that I'm going to run out of money, and and who's going to take care of me, and what's going to happen, and why the fuck did I leave that marriage? And I sort of have a version of this running almost all the time, and I think it keeps me from getting to know other people, because I just tend to stay home a lot, because I'm just kind of don't even know where I'm at, kind of emotionally, in terms of like personal relationships. My stuff at work is off the charts. It's total opposite of what I'm feeling inside. And so that's what I was looking at working on.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie, for sharing. Okay, so team, just in case you just jumped on, we have two people who have shared. So we have Steph and Stephanie. I'm going to do a poll for you on the screen, so you'll see it pop up. So you have a choice now between who you would like to see in the hot seat. So Steph was the first share. So she'd like to write a book, but just seems to come up to that roadblock, has made a massive investment in writing a book. And then Steph has deciding the relationship and why she has, and regretting leaving the relationship. So essentially, we want to look at the person who you feel like, or the individual you feel like you resonate with most, or they have the same story as you, or the individual that you would like to see have a resolution to their dynamic. So I'll give you just a few moments. So we're about halfway through individuals who are voting. Two more people. Okay, so I'll end the poll and then you get to see. So we did have, so hang on, share, there we go. So Stephanie, you have been selected by the group to have your challenge resolved. Well, not all of your challenge. We're going to pick and highlight one of that challenge, and we're going to work on that. So do know that, for example, Steph, I know that you haven't been chosen, but there is going to be a synchronous dynamic at play, that even if your challenge isn't being worked on directly, there'll be an indirect insight or question or resolution for you. I also want you as a listener, someone who's participating either in the recording or in the live event right now, that this is also an entanglement within you as well. So I do want you to know that there'll be, again, some deeper wisdom in this for you. If you have something in your heart that you'd love, a question you'd love me to ask, or an insight you'd love to share, then please feel free to write it in the chat. I'm going to ask Stephanie, don't look at the chat. We'll just have a conversation so you don't get too distracted by that, but I'll read them out as we go along. And so we're just going to focus on you and I together. So if there's a way that you can maybe pin me, I'm going to pin you as well. So we're going to get set up. So just give me 1 second. So Steph, during our session today, we have 30 minutes together. I am going to be typing along the way just because it helps me keep more present, as well as I'll go back and have a read of some of the things that I'm typing. So if you see me pitter-patting away, that's what I'm doing. So you've shared that you have been in a marriage for 16 years and you decided to leave, and you perceived that he had your back the ride or die, scenario with him. And then you've labeled that as a stupid move in your perception. And so then since then, you haven't seen your son as much. You also have put, your career's going really well, but you still worry about the financial side of things, and you don't know that's, all of that struggling with the ability to be able to like move on from that relationship. So if we were to focus on one aspect of that today to give you a resolution with, what would give you the greatest benefit to work on?
That I would be okay on my own.
And what does that mean?
It means if I'm single for the rest of my life, I'm totally fine with it. And I know that I'm going to have my own back and not be so afraid all the time. Okay.
And I wonder, team, is there anyone else out here who's also going, gosh, I just want to love being single for the rest of my life? Or I wonder if this session is for you. All right. So thank you for sharing and being open and transparent with us. So I'm curious, you said was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
I left in 2019, February 2019 is when I moved out.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to apply the Demartini method, but we're going to apply a side C of the Demartini method, which is the transformation, to be able to appreciate that there's never a gain or loss of someone having your back, but it's just morphing from one individual to another. But we're gonna do a little spin on it. So this one, we're gonna have a look at it specifically where you've had your own back. So we're going to start from February 2019. Where and when have you perceived yourself to have your own back? And what does that actually mean? If we can maybe dig deep even more and look at that from a specific action, what do you perceive you would have to do to have your own back?
I had to hustle and get jobs.
So it's a financial having your own back, like financially looking after yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you perceive to be missing most with the relationship ending? Or is it something else?
Yeah, a lot of that's a lot of it.
Okay, so let's focus on that.
That's a lot of it. Yeah.
Okay, so where and when have you perceived yourself from February 2019 until today? Have you perceived yourself to look after yourself financially? Like you've got your own back financially. You're taking care of yourself financially. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I worked several jobs and I got hired pretty easily.
Okay, so I want you to go to specific moments and name those moments for me.
So I got a position that fall because I had previously did sub work on purpose, so they would get to know me. And then that summer, the principal called and said, "Don't do anything. You have the job." Okay, great. So are you certain in that moment that you financially taking care of you? No one else is. Okay. For sure. Okay, and so go to another specific moment where and when from February 2019 till now that you've perceived yourself to look after yourself financially. No one else is taking care of you but you. I take the church where I play for. He came to me and he said, "I don't want anybody to poach you, so I want to offer you another mass." So it like doubled my mass money. Okay, great. So certainly in that moment, taking care of yourself and also taking care of yourself financially, but also doing something that you love. Okay, so in that. Okay, so go to another moment where and when you have financially looked after yourself from February 2019. I was in a different parish or county and they said, I couldn't work there anymore because they didn't have it's a music position, so they didn't have enough. So I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went in special education over the summer and I got in and I hated it. And I ended up pivoting and I applied for a job that was like a lower level, not lower level. It was a lower what do they call it? Like a school that's very low. The kids are very low, a lot of poverty. So if you were certified in it, you could come in, and I got it. I got the job.
Okay. So you in that moment, and how long did you have the job for?
I had that sped job for 9 weeks, horrible weeks.
Okay. But are you
then I got the other one.
Okay. But you're certain in that moment, you were still financially looking after yourself, not relying on anyone else, but you were taking care of yourself.
Yes, because at the time there was no positions open. So I took that sped job, and then boom, that job came open.
Okay, so tell me another moment where and when, because what we want to do is wake up inside of you that you have the capability, the ability, the drive, the hunger to be able to financially look after yourself. So go to another moment of where and when you've perceived yourself to financially look after yourself from February 2019.
Probably in my apartment, because the people that run here are so nice to me, and they like, I have like a washer and dryer, and they don't even charge me for it.
Is it probably or certainly?
No, they do. Yes, they do. Yeah, they could have taken it out because I was going to buy another one, buy one, but they never came to get it. It's been like a year.
Okay.
And they do these things all the time.
Okay. So tell me another moment then, if they do it, well, they wouldn't do it all the time, but tell me another moment then that within the apartment, you have financially looked after yourself.
Well, the air conditioner broke. And so I called them, and they came right up and fixed it. It was done. Okay.
So is that you, instead of waiting or getting you fixing it, I'm assuming normally even in the US that the owner's supposed to take care of it?
No.
Oh, are you?
It's in your rent that you pay every month.
Oh, okay.
So it's a fixed fee. So it didn't affect my financials.
Okay, great. So pick another moment where and when you have looked after yourself financially, that you've needed the resources and you have found a way to make it happen.
I taught some piano lessons the last 2 summers. I did that. I also get calls for funerals on most weekends.
For funerals? Oh, tell me what to play music? Yeah,
play and see music for funerals. Yeah.
Okay. Is that a booming business? I don't know.
Absolutely. Equal to babies. Yeah. Yeah. And I super love doing that.
Okay. So tell me with specific moments of where and when then you've financially looked at, you've said yes to those because you're financially looking after yourself.
Yes. And they come out of nowhere. So yeah, I had one, like 2 weeks ago, I had 4 services the whole weekend. I worked the whole weekend and I loved it.
Okay.
They could have given me 3 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're the one that's celebrating the death then.
Right.
Okay. So
that's right.
Okay. So so tell me, how are you feeling when it comes to this financially looking after yourself? And we've looked at moments with the schools that you've worked in, as well as the music opportunities the opportunities to play music that you've had and be paid for it. Are you starting, or are you certain that you have the ability to financially look after yourself? You have the drive, you have the ability, or what are you perceiving to be different between what you perceived your husband to do versus what you're doing?
Well, I didn't have to work 40 hours a week.
Oh.
Even though I would work 40 hours a week, but I didn't have a boss making me do it 40 hours a week and have to do what they tell me to do all fucking day. And whenever I was with Mitch, I didn't have to do that because he had the benefits package. So I netted more money than he did, but he had the benefits. So now I felt like I have to take care of myself better. So I have to have the benefits. So that's where I get mad.
Okay, I understand. So let's go back then to with your husband. So I want you to pick a moment where you perceive that you had been paid more, he's taking care of you, he has the benefits package so that he's also taking care of you as well. So I want you to go to a specific moment of where and when that happened. Like you had that moment of like, he's really taking care of me financially.
Well, I homeschooled my son for 10 years. And I couldn't have done that if he had not had my back, if he hadn't had like, so like if we need to go to the doctor or something, you know, his benefits paid for that.
Okay, so what do you perceive to be the drawback that your husband had your back financially and that he was taking care of you financially as well as giving, you know, as well as had the benefits included in his work, that you didn't have to work for those benefits? What specifically is the drawback of that?
I don't know, because it just let me do what I wanted to do and I made more money than him. So it's hard to think of a benefit. I mean, a drawback to that. I mean, it was still my money.
So what was the drawback that he took care of you financially? Because what did you do with your money then? Was your money used?
I saved it.
Yeah, and so you didn't have to spend any on the household or?
I paid off all of our debt and I saved simultaneously. And I got to where I could live off 15% of my income.
So
and I did that because of him, I was able to do that.
Okay, so what's the draw? So then you didn't pay for the bills and but you paid the debts off. But what
I paid the debts off and I had a couple of bills and he did the rest.
Okay, and so what was the drawback then of him taking care of majority of the everyday living and him paying for the everyday living costs?
I don't know. I fixed it that even if something happened with him, we would still have money to pay the bills.
So because we're looking for the draw, because you've got a fantasy that, and this happens in some marriages and relationships where the man goes and pays for a majority of things and the woman gets to save a majority of her income. So I've heard it a lot in dynamics in relationships. But what's the cost of that? Because if you're not learning to budget, pay your fair share, you feel like, you know, you save and save and save. And so you get that like almost like a dopamine hit of like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to save more and save more. But that's not a realistic version of saving because you're not having to spend what it would normally cost to live, which is why then you get resentment when you finally have to go and spend money on food and electricity and gas and everything else fuel that you need. And so there becomes this bitterness and resentment that you now have to spend money. So go back again. What else is what's the drawback specifically of your husband taking care of the majority of the bills?
I think I would try to like be really nice to him and, you know, get his food, taking care of our son. I took up a lot of, like my kid would say, Mom, you're the boss around here. Because I wanted to take things off of his plate because he did give us so much.
And so what specifically was the drawback then for you?
That I felt like indebted.
And so what did you do that was outside of who you are or what was really important to you because what were you sacrificing?
I didn't go out with friends. You know, I just did work stuff, which wasn't bad, but
okay.
It was our world was very small.
And what was the drawback for you and also your son of having a small circle of people or world around you?
Well, for my son, he needed more.
So say that again.
My son needed more. That's why I stopped when he was like 8.
Stop
so he could go to
homeschooling.
school. He wanted to go to school.
Yeah. He wanted more. So come back again. What else is the drawback? And so what's the drawback to him of seeing that you get to save essentially, and his dad is working to have the money spent? What's the drawback then for him?
I don't think he was able to continue it when I left as much with his new wife, which tells me he didn't learn the principles of saving and stuff, because I was the boss of everything.
Mm-hmm. So what was the drawback of him being the one that was spending all the money? So he's not learning savings, and he's not learning how to, and then just spending. So do you think that could possibly be resentment towards the relationship or towards you after some time? Because
he didn't overspend a lot. He would still save stuff, but he would just follow my lead. That's what it is. He would just follow my lead.
And so what was the drawback for him then, of him just following the lead financially with you?
He's not learning. He's not really learning.
And if he's not learning to save and invest, or just save in general, and he's just spending, what's the cost to the relationship dynamic? You're the saver and he's the spender, which normally happens in intimate relationships. The more polarized one is, the more one wants to squirrel away their money, the more the other one swings the other side and then goes and spends. And then there becomes resentment financially because you can't seem to get on the same page, because you don't have that even balance between spending and saving financially together.
Yeah. He saves. He did save a lot. He did, but not as much as we could with the money I was bringing in.
So come back again. What else is the drawback physically, mentally, spiritually of him spending, him paying for things? What did it cost you? What did it cost him? What did it cost the relationship?
I would tell him anything he wanted to do. I would say, yeah, go do it, or go get it, whatever you want, because you're so good to us and you're there for us. I was so grateful for that. I didn't have that.
So what's the drawback in that?
For him? I guess it must have made a different kind of dynamic if he's feeling like that I have to act that way.
You have to ask permission or grant permission to spend money?
I don't know if it's as much that as that we just kind of checked in. But he was very passive. Overall.
Louise has asked, was it boredom for him? Too much support led to boredom within the relationship?
I think it was boredom for both of us.
Or it was?
It was bored for both of us. Yes.
Is that a potential reason why the relationship ended? Because too much boredom and there's no more variety, nothing interesting. It's where's the challenge if it's too easy?
I think once we got all the debt paid off, it was boring. It was boring. But I was okay with it because I had such certainty behind me. And I didn't want to give that up.
Certainty of what specifically?
Of money. Like
Okay.
having somebody else in it with you, not just by yourself.
Okay. And so
Like if I was to get sick or something, you know, what would happen? You know, like anything could happen. So I just stayed.
okay. And so we're going to come back to this, but what else then? What's the drawback? So what's the benefit of you being the only sole provider now financially? What are you learning and what are you discovering about yourself? What's the benefit of you being the sole provider of you?
It's a pain in the ass.
No, but what's the benefit? You got resentment. So we want to be able to shift that so you can start to appreciate, or you can appreciate the benefits and the blessings in being.
I've learned to do a lot more things, you know, like I've bought that thing that you put in the back of your car whenever you got to put air in it. I don't know the words, but I can do that.
Okay.
Actually, Mitch, yeah. You know,
so how does it serve you then to be more independent and self-reliant?
A lot. That's one of the things my mom didn't really do.
Okay. And so what's the benefit of you being able to do that thing that your mom didn't do? How is it serving you, knowing that as you get older, and if you spent the rest of your life being single, what's the benefit that you don't need a man? Because that's one of the things that has been so ingrained in some of our thinking, is that like we need a man to take care of us. And because it's like a few generations old, that's still that pattern or that thought that still comes in ripples through us. And we have to consider like at what point, you know, when do we generationally break that thought pattern to know that we can have someone and join in a life with them, but we don't need them to take care of us. So what's the benefit of you? What else is the benefit of you taking care of you financially?
Well, I noticed that other people kind of like, for example, I got my car changed, the oil and all that stuff. And the guy was like, you need to change your windshield wipers. You're supposed to do this kind of often, because it was really bad. It was like all the time. And so he got me these, and then I was like, I'm like, oh my God. And I never knew that was a thing, you know, like you have to change your windshield wipers. And then I said, could y'all put that sticker that they sent me in the mail? And they did it, you know what I mean? Like they did all of those things.
Can you see that it's something so simple and it's really easy? So what you thought maybe was like difficult and challenging, as soon as you knew how to do it, it was easy and effortless to change the windscreen wiper and then make it wipe off the rain. And it's like effortless, but it didn't take a lot to do it. And so isn't that like a metaphor also for life as well? Like sometimes we think it's really difficult to then be self-reliant and independent and take care of yourself. But when you start to do it, how's it been? What's been the benefit of it?
You know, I'll talk to other teachers more and ask them, where do you go to get blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And so is that a deeper connection with the people that you work with, more of a community feel? Like what's the benefit of being able to check in and have those levels of conversation with people?
Yeah.
Benefit. And you said that you don't leave the house much, so I'm assuming you don't have many conversations with different people, but that gives you that connection.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is the benefit of you taking care of yourself financially?
Well, I can live where I want to live, or if I want to move, I can move.
So not having to ask someone else's permission or just check in with someone else what you can and can't do, or having to negotiate or think about someone else's what is important. And so what's the benefit of that, of being completely free to make your decision about what you want for your life?
Yes, because I do a lot of stuff that people think are weird, like, you know, Demartini stuff, when you just doing lines, you know, like, like you don't have a lot, you know, are you kidding? It's right here on this paper.
Yeah.
But you know, but you know, I mean, it was, yeah, because people just, they don't get me often because they like to do other things, and that's okay, but it's nice to be home and not be like hassled about it. You know what I mean? Like,
so it sounds like you feel more freedom to be yourself.
Yeah.
Being at home. Okay. And so what would be the drawback if you were still in the relationship with the husband and he was taking care of you financially and you were having to check, you know, do more things for him to make sure that he was okay with having to spend so much money? What would be
I leaned on him so much.
What's the drawback of that? When you lean on one person, one individual, what's the cost of that?
That if they go away, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. But that's,
I mean,
but yes, but I want the drawback though, because that's a drawback if they left, but I want a drawback of being with them.
he didn't tell me how to do things. Like the TV, like the back of the TV had like 4,000 wires. And I'm like, if something happens with the TV, I'm not going to know how to fix that. I mean, my TV has one plug.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
And that turns on. It's like super easy. So what's the drawback then if he never, you know, it's just like you with savings, you didn't educate him on how to save and how to invest and to pay off his debts. But he also didn't invest in you to tell you how to do things around the house or to, you know, how to pay all the bills, or like he didn't also, you know, help you. And so what's the drawback of that, of you not knowing how to do a lot of like the life tasks?
It's actually not being proactive about this is for my entire life, not just because something could happen to him. Yeah, I mean, like you just don't know how to do things.
And so what's the drawback then if you don't know how to, if you don't know how, like you like to sit down and you like to apply the Demartini method, and why do you do that?
Because it feels good. I like learning.
Okay. And so how did your ex-husband prevent you from being able to learn about life?
Well, I wasn't much in life. I was just in the house.
What's the drawback in that?
Well, then I got to really practice it.
You got to practice what?
When I left the marriage, I actually got to really, really practice it more.
Oh, so that's the benefit of leaving. I love how you jumped there. The benefit of leaving. That's okay. Okay. So what else is the benefit of leaving? Like how else what else have you learned over that time as a result of having to pay for things financially for yourself?
The benefit of paying things for myself. I mean, I get to make the decisions, you know, but sometimes I hate it. But
I know I'll give something in love. It's like sometimes it's that, like when you were a teenager, or I'm not, you know, however you were old you were, and you left home and you had your parents do everything for you, and they took care of you and they looked after you, they cleaned your sheets and they cooked for you, and they did, well, I know everyone's home dynamic is a little bit different. And so then when you leave home, all of a sudden you're going to have to adult. You know, you're adulting for the first time, where you have to, I mean, I remember having to go to Salvation Army to get, you know, food because I didn't know how to adult very, very well, and I sucked at it and it was hard. But there was a big growth stage, because to be able to fend for yourself and know that you don't have to rely on anyone else. There'll people show up and help out, but you can still be self-reliant. And this is also something similar, where not same, but something similar, where all of a sudden you're now having to fully adult on your own. And it can be that part where we want to kind of sit back in and kind of just go, but I just want someone to take care of me. But then we want to be able to find so many more blessings that's actually the very thing that if you had to do this adulting, you know, fully on your own, taking care of yourself, if you could turn around and, you know, after a decade of doing it and see how much you've grown financially and how much you do get paid for what you love and you love your life and you're like, and you did it on your own, you know, that sense of accomplishment is a different experience versus I leaned on someone else and it was like together we did it, but you know, and so we have to be able to flip that to now just have that love inside of you. So how else would, what's the benefit to your learning of doing this on your own, of you like fending for yourself? Like, what's the benefit to your learning?
I'm a lot stronger. I learned, I practice it with like my students a lot in little ways. And I like that, doing that.
And what do you practice?
Like something in the students will do in class, and I'll pop a little Demartini in there. just enough, you know, just enough to make them kind of think. And I like that.
And so how is this then an opportunity to really go deep into your mind and psychology and a growth path for you? Because what's interesting, because what I hear underneath all of that is you have a high value in finances. You know, you don't go and squirrel and save away your money if you don't have a value in finances. And then you've given yourself the biggest financial challenge by going, okay, I'm going to do it on my own now. And it's like, are you willing now to embrace the pain and pleasure and the pursuit of your financial goals? Are you willing to step up and to grow and to challenge yourself and to be okay to pay some bills and spend a little bit more money at the same time as saving and investing? Are you prepared to do that? And are you?
Well, I've been doing it for 4 years.
And what's the issue then with doing it for 4 years? Like what's the biggest issue you have around doing it on your own for 4 years? Because if you turn around what you had 4 years ago versus what you have now, what's different?
I guess my son seeing me,
You guess or definitely?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sometimes he's like, you know, mom's really by herself, you know.
Then let's if it's not certain, we won't. So what's changed from then until now?
Yeah. I've had to face up with more assholes. Like I have to deal with more, you know, issues.
So instead of hiding, you're now having to be challenged and face it. And so what's been the benefit of having to, what have you learned and how have you learned and grown through that?
That I didn't let them take my money. And I stood up for myself for that. And that I did learn to, like, I learned a lot about rejection, major, and got passed through that. Yeah.
And do you feel stronger for it?
Oh, for sure. Because Mitch was so passive.
So, and what's been the benefit then of having those challenges for you? Like, why did you opt for those challenges instead of staying with, I'm assuming your ex-husband was Mitch?
Yeah.
Like, because what would have been the drawback if you stayed with passive, easy, and you did a lifetime of passive and easy? Given that you love personal growth, what's the drawback?
Right. I think I felt that the work that I had with him was like coming to a completion. And I also felt like he needed more.
And what about you? Because how you see the others is how you see yourself. So what more did you need? Because it's
The same. Yeah, kind of the same. Yeah, like more intimacy, more emotional connections, we both didn't have it with each
so
other.
when was the moment you decided that in the relationship that you wanted more of that in your intimate relationship but weren't getting it? When did you make the decision?
About a year before I left.
And
that's
so
when I really.
Okay, so if you grew up in your old age and you kept that passive, no intimacy, no personal growth, and you continued that, what would have been the drawback for you?
We probably would have started fighting.
Probably or definitely?
Definitely.
And what would have been the drawback with that type of fighting?
I wouldn't want my son to have to deal with that.
So why did you choose to leave then?
For him and for Mitch and me.
And what's there to regret about that decision then, if that was the reason why you left, because you wanted something different?
Because I didn't think I could do it for the rest of my life.
You didn't think you could do being on your own?
Yeah.
So where were you already on your own with Mitch? No intimacy. Where were you already on your own?
Yeah.
So then what's the benefit of you doing it on your own for the rest of your life, if that's the path that's ahead for you?
Yeah.
Because you can, there's that's that law of the one and the many. So we have, at the moment you've got the many around you that you're getting challenged and pushing you to grow and helping you, versus the one where you're at home on your own, just with him and your son and the more insular family. And so what's the benefit of learning and growing through the bigger, wider world?
Well, my son has definitely grown. He needed to, and he needed to.
And what about you?
I did.
Why?
But I'm not as convinced.
Okay, so we're not here to convince, we're just here to build up certainty. So what else is the benefit of you being the one on your own, having to do it on your own? So team, if you have some ideas, feel free to throw them out as well into the chat section. So what's the benefit of you being single on your own?
I can stay in my apartment and I can be safe. I know I can keep myself safe.
What does safe mean?
Safe means like it's really hard to get into my apartment and I feel safe.
Okay. So what's the benefit of you being the one that does it on your own for the rest of your life? Like the idea
nobody else has it.
Sorry?
Nobody else has my key.
Okay, but not necessarily living on your own, but like what's the benefit of like doing life on your own? It's like building inner strengths, says Bridget. You get to make the decisions, self-empowerment for Linda, freedom. You get to do what you want to do. You get to have many relationships in many different forms, like build up different friendships and male and female, and have that variety, and you choose who you want to spend with for the day, rather than having to spend it with the same individual every single day. Exploring, following what your wants and needs are, connecting with different people, more self-reliant. This is Michael. So what's the benefit?
I do talk to more people.
And so what's the benefit of being able to talk to more people? Thinking about your growth path and what's important for you, what's the benefit?
It's just not the same as when you're married and when you have them. That's just people that you talk every now and then to. It's
Right.
not like
Come
they're
back
in
again.
it with you.
I understand. So come back again. What else is the benefit that you're with you, that you're not relying on anyone else, that you are with you? You're not going, I need someone else. Like I desperately need someone else to be with me so that I feel safe and I feel okay. What's the benefit that you're the one that is feeling safe and feeling okay, that you're with you, that you're in a world directed rather than outer world needing?
Mhm.
What's the benefit of that?
It makes me work harder.
Okay, and so how is that serving you to work harder? How does that serve you mentally to work harder?
I get more work.
Okay, what's the benefit of getting more work? It sounds like you love what you do.
I do.
Okay, and so
And I, you know, it gives me time to pursue other things as well.
mhm. So, you know, I really believe that our purpose is our purpose in life is to find our purpose and then go share our purpose with the world. And so if you'd stayed with that relationship, would you have gone out and shared your purpose as much as you are now?
Probably, but I don't think I would have been as convincing because I
Mhm.
hadn't experienced the things that I've experienced in the past 4 years.
Okay, so that's saying that there's an element of growth that changes the way that you do your purpose and the way that you play your music. How has your music changed as a result of going through what you've gone through over the last 4 years?
I think I'm more confident.
You think, or you are?
I am in school too, music and both.
Okay, and so what's that worth? What's that worth to you, to just have more confidence in school and music?
It's a lot because I used to be, if I made one little mistake, oh my God, they're not going to call me back to come back.
Oh.
And now I'm like, fuck you, you know, I'm doing a good job. If I do, I mean, whatever, you do too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay, so you've built more confidence up in what you've been doing. And
yeah,
how does
and
that help
talking with
your
principals too.
Yeah, and so how does that help your son to see you just oozing more confidence in your purpose, in speaking to people, in what you
Yeah, like when he comes over here, I'm like coach mom. I'm a coach mom. Mitch is the shasha mom, you know what I mean? So when he comes over here, he's you know, he says Demartini stuff all the time to me.
Yep.
Because he's learned on it. So that's nice that he knows to come to me when it's about business and things like that.
Okay, so you've grown in business, you've grown in confidence and certainty in what you can do in both music and teaching.
Yes.
If you amplify that for 4 years and you don't do 10 years on top of that, but you amplify your confidence and your ability to serve, how would that be?
How would
that be? Would that be okay or not?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
So is your future looking a little brighter then?
Yeah, I'm definitely way more powerful.
So,
and ironically, it's not because of Mitch, it's because of the experiences that I'd had from when I left Mitch.
Of course, you've had a lot of challenges that you've had to face, and you've had to dig deep in your, psyche to go and own and to crack any fantasies. Because often when we leave a relationship and it's just challenge after challenge after challenge, it's just really upheaval, that can show us that we have had a big fantasy on, potentially what the relationship was like, or potentially what we thought it would be like post-relationship. And so then we just get these major challenges, but there are opportunities for us to find the growth in it, and that you have grown, and you've grown in your purpose, which has been really meaningful to you. And so, are you starting to unravel? I know that sometimes I call it when I have client one-on-one sessions and they start to do a package, I feel like they give me like a ball of mess and we start to like untangle it and we start to see more like of the, like, you know, the perfection in it. So from the time that we've worked together, have you been able to see a little bit or appreciate a little bit more of the dynamic than when we first started?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And so what would be your biggest take home then for today?
Just how much more powerful I am in my work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that maybe it can be helpful to get really clear about what it is in your lifetime that you want to achieve in your work. And then you could focus on chipping away at that and make a new purpose, because sometimes with a relationship, we've spent so long planning what our future is going to be like with them, that over the last 4 years, how much have you spent planning about what you want with your life in 10 years time, in 20 years time? How much planning have you done with that?
Not much.
Yeah. So really it can be the reason why it's also in your perception painful is that you haven't sat down now and recreated your future of what you would love and what that looks like being on your own. And but it isn't even about being on your own. It's like, what do you want for your purpose? Because when we have that, we're not thinking about who's with me, who's not with me. Am I alone, single, with a partner, with a lot of you know, a big family, small family? We're not thinking of that. We're just thinking about our purpose and our mission and what we can do to share that with the world. Yes. That becomes our focus as opposed to feeling lonely.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stephanie, for being in our hot seat. So I'm curious, teams, I'm going to come to the gallery. So I'm curious, team, tell me your thoughts, tell me your questions, tell me your insights. Who's the one that's like just single, really trying to like step into their singlehood and work through that? So I'm curious. So Steph's putting her hand up. I would also say the same thing for me, Thomas, Christina, putting a hand up. So yeah, definitely there's that. Or who's in a relationship thinking about leaving and thinking their life would be so much better. I'm addicted to my singlehood, on the contrary. So you're the opposite, which is cool. So tell me thoughts, comments, questions. Who would like to start? Steph?
Firstly, Stephanie, thank you. Honestly, the synchronicity and entanglement, as usual, is just mind-blowing. And thank you, Tanya, as well. So many, I've got like pages of notes here, so thank you. Tanya, just a quick question, because one of the things that seemed for me, for Stephanie, was like this whole projection of the future and having the security for the future. And that's where the planning comes in, and sort of building in both the planning around purpose, both the planning around savings, investings, et cetera, to take away that perceived fear of, oh my gosh, like down the line, if I don't have any of that. Is that kind of the way to sort of work around that?
It is, but it wouldn't be where I would initially start with the session, because then she's still perceiving that she regretted, although she didn't necessarily, she said it was a stupid move in her perception, what she labeled it at the beginning. So that's why we focused on that first. So work on the dynamic there first. And then, which is why at the very end I said, now, you know, it's time to think about your future and what you want. So then it could also be helpful for her to go and look at, well, because some people stress about their finances and they think about, oh gosh, I'm so stressed, but then we go back and have a look, well, how much money do you need? And then, and how much do you need to live? And then what do you need for the future? And what would that look like with inflation? And then they come down to a number and they're like, oh, well, I could do that. Or it's way further out my reach. And what am I going to have to do to stretch myself to get there? So they can start to create a plan. But then they're having a future nightmare of something they haven't sat down and planned out in the first place. So that can be helpful, but only after you've done the work undo the ball. Like there's still more work for Stephanie to go through, but at least it's a start to I'm assuming that you now don't label it as a stupid move, Steph?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, it can be helpful now to go in and do more future planning around finances. That can be definitely helpful. Yeah. So thank you, Steph, for your question.
Thank you.
So Patricia said, I also feel balanced and great at being single, that you've embraced your singlehood. But question for you both, I know, Alexa, you've been in a relationship, but Patricia, how long have you been single for? If you feel like sharing.
5 years.
5 years. And how long, at what point did you embrace it? From the beginning? Just recently?
No, pretty much in the beginning. Yeah. I was ready.
You're ready for the end of the relationship helped that you were ready to being single, which is where you made the decision.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that so if I think about some clients that I've worked with in the past, some of their attachment, like when they'd grown up, or one of the things that I'm thinking of one particular client, that when they'd grown up, their family had this very like ingrained like thought pattern, which is being in a relationship was successful, being out of a relationship was unsuccessful. And so there was this like family dynamic at play that as soon as they were single, there was this shame involved. You know, you don't fit into society, you don't fit into the family. And so there's also that like wider dynamic that they had to work through to be able to shift that. We also have this like Cinderella, which also the men have that, the knight in shining armor complex that we have to remove. But maybe not so much with kids that are growing up these days. They'll have a different set of challenges. Maybe theirs is you become rich quickly by the time you're 20. Like you become super wealthy by the time, or successful in their perception by the time you're just past your teens. Maybe that's their dynamic. But for the books that we were exposed to and the thought patterns around how a man should be and a woman should be, we have these like perceptions or traits, actions and inactions that a man is supposed to do and a woman is supposed to do. But the truth is, if we then have to be fully reliant on them, then we lose our autonomy and we lose our sense of independence. And that does challenge us, although it does challenge us when they're no longer around. It's like, that's why people can have these massive like identity crises, or like it's very stressful because they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore because they've done so much for me, or I've had to do so much for them that I lost myself within that relationship. And so it's really breaking the molds of the identity of the gender biases that we have of how people, or men and women, should behave inside of relationships, and then come to a new perspective that's going to work for us, that allows both people to have independence and both people to feel autonomous in the relationship and interdependent in the relationship rather than codependent on each other. Because if you need someone, there's a sense of desperation, which from an intimacy point of view, or from a deeper relationship point of view, that also doesn't feel great when you're like needed on. You know, if someone needs you, you have a tendency, you want to like retreat a little bit because it feels uncomfortable for you, because you might not necessarily want to do what they feel needing you for. And so having to interdependent people living their life then, and not living to subordinate of what their gender role should be, is they can end up having a more empowered relationship. And then underneath all of that, we essentially want to come down to, can we live an empowered life with or without someone? Because essentially what I love most about the Demartini method is it's teaching you how to be inward out in the world, which means that instead of blaming or shaming or naming other people around you, or what's, the reason why your life is the way that it is, like you could only grow your finances because of the dynamic you had in your relationship with your partner, and it's because of them you couldn't get more money, or they were spending too much, and then it becomes blaming. Then what we end up doing is going and taking self-responsibility, and we end up going inward and what's our reflection inside of all of this. And so that's way more empowering to be internally driven than externally run. Because when we're externally run, then as soon as something's gained or lost, we're like happy or sad, or we feel good about ourselves, and then we feel terrible and shameful about ourselves. And that ends up being this like huge roller coaster of emotion that we end up getting entangled with the outside world. We can end up losing our sense of ourselves as a result of it. So the more inward we can be, the more empowered we become, the more we living what we choose to live for our life. It's like, I know I want to do that for the rest of my life, regardless of who I'm with and what relationship I have. I want that type of life, as opposed to having that leaning on someone or needing someone. So team, tell me. Linda said, I'm realizing that I'm not done adulting. You've got to really embrace adulting. I do. I have a vivid memory of a client, and they were like in their mid 20, I'm having a guess, mid 2024 or something. And, one of the first sessions is like, I just don't like adulting. This is hard. And it's like, I know, like when we have those moments where you have to really step into like fully have to pay for everything, and you have to look after yourself, and you have to, it's hard. That I left my family home to work on a ship for 2.5 years where everything was provided, which is basically going from one home to another home. And very interesting to look at. So they're getting married, and then I imagine that is where you then had to do the providing instead. Steph said being single for 10 years now, and to be fair, the only real relationship I had was with my daughter's father, which lasted about 3 years. Definitely resonate with taking on the biggest financial challenge, doing it on my own, and that the purpose is the process of growth. Yeah. 10 years as well, says Nicole. 10 years. All right. So I would love to hear from you, team, before we wrap up. What's been your greatest learning takeaway from this session today? And if you're already, just do a quick little intro into maximum growth while you write your insights. We do have our doors closed at the moment, so if you are interested in watching the recording and not already part of our maximum growth community, then I highly recommend that if you love the Demartini method process, you'd love to be part of a thriving community where we apply the Demartini method in step-by-step bite-sized pieces. We go through just different questions and have a different focus each week of the year. So I show up for you every single week, every single year. And so that gives you an opportunity to come in and apply the Demartini method. Highly recommends. We do have our doors open in April. So if it is something you want to join, you can just click onto the website and then join the waiting list, and then come in for our classes and be a part of our rocking community. So thank you. Julie says, I like that remembering the challenges on the way to mastery often still feels hard though, doesn't it? So can't get growth without challenge. Can't get growth without challenge, or challenge without growth. It's as if we choose to grow. Krishna, hey Krishna, I've been single for most of the last 8 years, and there's a perfection in it. Nothing is missing, so benefits as well as drawbacks. So Louise has lots of insights for me. Thank you, David. Hey, David, my biggest learning today was to rely on better time zone conversion. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we noticed that too. So we will update it. Hillel is, I don't get long-lasting serious relationships. Bridget, I love the session as a reminder in relationship to be aware of complacency and stagnation. Yeah, because that was actually one of the things which, and she said that it was boredom in the relationship that led, because there's no growth. And if you have a high value on growing, you want to be growing spiritually, socially, financially, in some area of life together, that you have that challenge and that growth together. So where is delegation actually disempowerment? And Bridget said, Julie said, I like that too. Linda said, I'm going to take insights away from today into my own maximum growth work this month. So I'm working on not building finances. Perfect. That's no better or no worse, just what you make of it. Why do we choose what we choose, whether knowing or not knowing, but we can still choose? And Evram is being married or being single, having some amount of advantages and disadvantage. Well, I'm sure everyone who's been married for a very long time can say that there's a downside to it, as well as people who've been single for a very long time have, there's upsides and downsides. Steph, and some decisions come from such a deep place inside of us that it takes a lot more work to identify it and take the courage. The courage comes from it. And the last one is Bernadine is embracing the challenge in my relationship. And that sometimes we think if we left the relationship, it's going to be better. And then it's not. All right, team. So thank you so much for coming along for our Maximum Growth Hot Seat. Know that this is a class that we come up every 2 months. So it'll be on again in April. Our next session, which is the conversation, which is the first Monday of the month, and it's always 8 p.m. Sydney time. So our next one is on overcoming the fear of failure is our conversation topic for that session. So come along to that. It is a conversation, so you get to share, I get to share, we get to have a beautiful discussion on that particular topic. So I hope to see you there. Have a beautiful rest of the day or night, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you at the next perfect time. Thanks, guys. Take care. See you.